Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday and time for Take 5 again, so let's jump right in. We've been talking about our second installment in our Back to Basics series, and we've been talking about Noah, right? The story of Noah, the great flood that God sent on the earth to judge the world, the ark that Noah built. Yesterday, we talked about the ark and the dimensions of it and some of the instructions that God gave Noah to build the ark, and we talked about the consistent faith that it took for Noah to build that ark for 75 years. And that's such an amazing story that I think sometimes we kind of run right past another part of Noah's story that is maybe just as important as the building of the ark. In the next chapter, in Genesis chapter 8, Noah and his family have spent an entire year on the ark. God has flooded the earth, and now Noah has spent the next several months just waiting on the ark, waiting for the flood waters to come down, waiting for everything to dry out. In total, he and his family spent almost a year, right about a year on the ark. And finally, all of the flood waters dry up, everything dries up, the earth, and God says, Noah, it's time to get off the ark. So Noah and his family begin to get off the ark, and this is what the Bible says. Noah and his family get off the ark. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord. And that was our title this past Sunday. Not Noah and the ark, but Noah and the altar. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and the birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice. I think sometimes we get so caught up in the ark, and rightfully so, because it's an amazing story. It's my favorite Bible story. But sometimes I think we get so caught up in that we run right past this part of the story, the altar that Noah built. Now I want you to think for a minute the devastation that this earth was in after a flood of this magnitude. If you think for a moment about how small floods that we have experienced, how they impact our world, how they impact infrastructure, how they impact roads and bridges and buildings, how they impact the earth even by washing and eroding. When you think about the impact that small floods have, how much impact, how much greater were the effects of a global flood, where the entire earth was covered in water for almost an entire year. When Noah and his family got off of the ark, this earth looked nothing like anything they had ever seen before. This earth was probably eroded in ways that were just hard to explain. There are some people that even teach that the Grand Canyons probably came from this great flood. There were probably dead carcasses of animals and even people that were still laying out rotting on the ground from where they had died. There were probably no trees because flood water is very strong. So there were probably no trees, no vegetation, no grass, nothing to eat. This earth looked probably very barren. Noah and his family get off of the ark, and they have a lot of responsibilities because now they are tasked with basically rebuilding their lives, rebuilding this earth from scratch after some devastation has hit it. Noah gets off the ark. He's going to have to build a house for him and his family. He's going to have to build a barn or stables for his livestock. He's going to have to start tilling the ground for a garden to plant things to eat. There's so many things that Noah and his family are going to have to do, not to mention that once they start repopulating the earth, they're going to have to rebuild infrastructure, cities, roads, buildings for other people. There's a lot to do. The to-do list for Noah was very, very long. But the first thing Noah does is not build a house, not build a barn or a stable, not till up the ground and start planting a garden. The first thing Noah does, the Bible says, is build an altar. Noah takes the time before he builds anything for himself, and he builds something to honor God. And the Bible said that God was pleased with what Noah did. He was pleased with what Noah built because he built something to honor God instead of himself first. Then on the flip side of that coin, just about 2 chapters later and just a few years after the flood, there was this guy named Nimrod who came along, and he convinced a whole group of people to let's build a great city and build a great tower to try to reach the heavens. And this is what he said verbatim: let's build this great city and this great tower so that we can become famous. Nimrod had in his mind that they would build a tower so tall that just in case God decided to flood the earth again, maybe they could climb up it and escape the flood waters. The bottom line is Noah built something to honor God, and Nimrod built something to honor himself. And both of them were decently successful in the building of what they were building, the tower and the altar, but they both had 2 very different consequences. Because when you look at Noah built an altar, and the Bible said that pleased God. But in the story of the Tower of Babel, Nimrod and those people are building this tower, and history tells us that they were doing a pretty good job, that they were building a structure that looked strong and looked mighty and looked like nothing that this world had really ever seen before. But God looked on what they were building and was disgusted. And so what He did was He confused their languages so they didn't speak the same language, and so they couldn't work together anymore. And He caused them to spread out across the entire earth. One man built something to honor God, and it pleased God. Not only did it just please God, but God was so pleased that when he saw what Noah was doing, He turned around and not only blessed Noah, but blessed the entire world, because the next couple of verses God says, I will never again kill all living things like I have this time. I'll never do it just like this again. Just because Noah built an altar and honored God in this way, God blessed Noah and the entire world. And on the other hand, Nimrod builds something to honor himself, and God looks on it with disgust, and He shuts the whole thing down. So my question today to you, and the question I posed to you Sunday is this: what are you building? What are you building in your marriage? What are you building in the raising of your kids? What are you building in your family? What are you building at your job, in your business, in your life, in your relationship with God, at your church? What are you building? Are you building something that honors God, or are you building something to honor yourself? And I think if we'd be honest with ourselves this morning, there may be a lot of us that have been building our lives and living our lives to honor ourselves more so than to honor God. And I think we need to recognize that and just change our motives, change our intentions, change our heart, and begin to build something that honors God. We want to be blessed. We want to live lives that are successful. We want to be blessed ourselves, and we want to be a blessing to the rest of the world. And the way to do that is to build our life in every facet to honor God. If you do that, I promise you, success will find you. If you do that, God will make sure that you are successful. If you build your life to honor Him over yourself, God will wring out every ounce of potential that you have in your life. So what are you building today? Hey, I hope you have a great day today. Remember to read Genesis chapter 7. That's your homework for today. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow morning right here at Take 5.